My name is Allison, and I have decided, well, I've been pushed by my team and my crew to record information as I'm receiving it. I've had a few down days to put things in some kind of an order, and I'll do my best in kind of relaying the basics of the most recent information that I've gotten come through. This is my first video, and there is a little bit of a level of fear in doing this, but I'm doing it anyway. From source, there are what are considered 9 quadrants. I've gotten to most of the time just calling them Qs. No surprise, but our current planet, galaxy, universes are in Q9. In Q9, we've got 12 dimensions. The 9 quadrants, as a visual representation, are atop each other from 1 down to 9, and the images that I see are that they're skewed. They're not completely lined up perfectly. Quadrants 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 are seriously disjointed, and we're unable to get more than just a trickle of source energy that's being able to pass through down into quadrant 9. This is being remedied by benevolent beings of light and us. We heard the call, and we came to use our skills and abilities to assist. The position of our planet in the solar system is not even in her proper alignment, which is required to be straightened out so that we can receive all that we can receive. She's in an angle that kind of puts a kink in the full light code information that we're able to receive down into our quadrant. There are vast teams of multiple civilizations that are currently working on adjusting her position, ever so slowly, so that as much life as possible can still remain here. They could fix it instantly, but everything on the planet would pretty much die. These repairs have been in effect for a long time, longer than we can even comprehend, and we're beginning to see some of the changes as we continuously get our upgrades and the lights, all in an effort just to put her back into her proper position in the solar system. The images I'm shown of the solar system is that it used to perfectly run like a machine in the perfect rotation and beauty. I am shown 12 planets, and once she is moved back into her proper position, that the other planets will again come back into their position, and I do not know yet how that will affect us. We are used to how the planets currently are and their rotations and how that affects us when they're all into a different harmonic rotation. I do not yet know how that's going to affect us. The ascension that we're going through is, that most are talking about, is here to raise the vibration of physical matter. The planet, our bodies, elements, minerals, animals, basically all life that's in this quadrant. It is not about soul ascension. There is a soul ascension happening simultaneously, but it looks and feels differently than the physical sensations and issues that we're all currently having. The light codes upgrades are for the physical forms to decrease the lower density, undo our programming, reprogram the DNA to allow these vessels to hold a greater level of light, raising higher and higher through the dimensions, and the current push is to raise to 5D. The 5th dimension is not all rainbows and unicorns, as some are wanting to believe, and I wanted to believe it too. But I'll get back to that in a few minutes. The 12th dimensional beings in our quadrant are currently working with the 1st and 2nd dimensional beings in quadrant 8 to fix access between the 2 quadrants, which goes hand in hand with our planet being shifted into a proper alignment. Again, this is a really huge project with a very large number of benevolent light beings throughout this quadrant and the next one, working tirelessly for this endeavor. A phrase from my crew, see, I'm so nervous. The phrase from my crew was that the frequency level is at consciousness mass of collected beings. So basically they're saying that the average of all the beings that are present in the collective, which on the bigger scale also includes all beings in our quadrant and not just on Earth. So many within this quadrant who desire to continue the upward journey are assisting in raising the lowest frequencies higher, which assists us all, which includes all those that we consider the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, the Andromedans, etc. Quadrant 8 has 13 dimensions. The shifts between dimensions becomes quicker with each minor adjustment on a soul level, which is good news. Quadrant 7 has 14 dimensions. In Quadrant 6, 5, and 4, they don't consider them dimensions, they call them levels. That's the term they use. Quadrant 6 has 15, Q5 has 16, Q4 has 17. Q5 is the highest level that beings that are not of full light can reside. Yes, beings that are less than full light, which I call night beings, are still present in Q5, which is 39 dimensions and between 15 to 30 levels up. I didn't want to believe it initially, but was then shown beings like Moloch, Enlil, Enki, Anu, followed by a question. Did you really believe that these beings were no higher than your fourth dimension? The mental flood of images that I got after that really made me laugh. Because the beings that have been considered gods with all their technology, their gifts, their abilities, are obviously way higher than fourth dimensional beings. And somehow we seem to think that as soon as we got past the fourth dimension, all of this would be gone. My mind raced through the Arcturians, the Pleiadians, the Andromedans, the Ascended Masters, and acknowledged that many of them are already 12th dimensional beings. And if they had the strength, knowledge, and abilities that they would have and could have subdued or eliminated the night beings present in this quadrant. Deep breath on that thought. Q3 has 18 breaths. Again, in quadrant 1, 2, and 3, they call them breaths. Quadrant 4, 5, and 6 have levels. That's what they call them. And quadrant 7, 8, and 9 have dimensions. Quadrant 2 has 19 breaths, and quadrant 1 has 20 breaths. Me and my love of math, I added up all the dimensions, levels, and breaths, and yes, it equals 144. Coincidence? My crew and homeworld are on Q2. We don't have a name, we don't have a place. We are non-physical beings that, yes, have a ship that we live and travel on. This is where I met my crew, Q2L3, Quadrant 2, Level 3, and we've maintained contact ever since. On another video I may talk about the first time home, as well as my trip to Source. The terminology I use to describe beings is light and night. We each have been in so many forms, physical, non-physical, and all other forms possible. Sometimes we were light beings, which was always true in quadrants 1 through quadrant 4, and sometimes night beings, while in quadrant 5 through quadrant 9. Night is not void of light. I was shown how the learning or programming that we receive with our familial growing up is what sets the stage for what we know, believe, and how we act. I could clearly see that within Q5, many of us went into some of the night bodies over and over, knowing that we could easily adjust things back in love, but for a variety of reasons we were just drawn into those habits and programs, and it continued to grow larger. In Q1 and Q2, there was an understanding that all could be experienced, and they didn't interfere with the evolutionary process of the nights and just allowed things to continue, which brings us to what we see today. I was imbued with a level of compassion for the night beings that we have on this planet and that are up through the quadrants, because I could see that they also have a pulling towards ascension and putting into place going into a higher state for themselves, and all they can do is basically what comes naturally or what is genetic to them to raise themselves into the 5D, which they are doing. And as their higher gods and leaders, which are also well above 5D, are assisting them to do that, just as our higher benevolent light beings are assisting us. The pull for everyone is real to ascend and to become more, and the knights are just using their predominant experiences and learnings that throughout their own lifetimes. Soul splits. This brings me to soul splits. Soul splits are in Quadrant 1 and Quadrant 2. It is a highly beautiful and honored ceremony to have completed all the requirements, of which I do not yet know, and then to receive authorization and monitoring through the entire soul split process. The all beings are gathered around to watch, and I was able to view this happening. I don't have the full words. It was amazing. There was no sorrow, no pain. It was just pure bliss and joy, a dance of light throughout the whole ceremony. Might have to do a video on that one. The original soul is allowed to split up to 12 times. Each split is an exact duplicate. The image is like a cell dividing in our bodies, a replica of what it just came from. Each split can multiply up to 12 times, and then the splits can multiply fewer times than that, and then the splits even more than that, all the way down. I don't have a full number on how many splits that you can have, but when they showed me the fast forward of the splits is when I noticed this is our soul group. This is how a soul group was formed. When you do the split, you can only be done in Q1 and Q2. Anything outside of those two quadrants, it's not even possible to do any longer. So when you consider the number of soul splits, and then the number of incarnations that each soul has, and the split has had, it becomes huge, huge numbers of both light and night. As we do our inner work, overriding programs, transmuting density, raising our frequencies, we're simultaneously doing the same in all of our other lifetimes, past, present, and future. My latest work was loving all of the night me's, bringing them into the center in alignment with the light me's. There were many times I would ask the assistance of a higher light me to intervene and work with a night me, as it had a greater knowing of how to be the most loving and bring the night into union. In every meditation, every day, I call in the me's, past, present, and future, to join together in unity for this time of experience and learning, to help each other in whatever issues going on, so that we can assist each other in resolving everything in any given moment. All of our inner work is part of the soul ascension process. For most of us, our soul is wrapping up minor things within these 12 dimensions and already has access to the other quadrants, doing all of its work there as well. I had a big picture moment the other day, and it is the soul of all the life streams that I've had is the same soul that I have. So imagine its own confusion within each life, having them all simultaneous at one time, dealing with the vessels and the issues that the vessel thinks are important and going on, all the while doing its own work. So the habits and beliefs of each life form definitely interfere with the light or night aspects at any given time. I am grateful for my crew, for what they're showing me. I have found a lot of anger coming up in the last couple of days, which I guess had to occur before I could record this video. In the process of working with my crew, I was upgraded to a golden Merkaba, and then to a diamond Merkaba, which I'm still getting used to and working on programming, which is another video for another time. Part of my anger seems to have been remembering the things that we're capable of doing in other quadrants and other space-time dimensions, and yet we can't seem to be able to do here. But I'm getting calmer now and getting my head back into what I can do to move things along for the best of all of us. I think this is long enough. Seems like I've hit the high points and given a general overview. Please leave questions below. I really enjoy having more questions to ask that I hadn't even thought of yet. Thanks for listening. Ending transmission until the next now.